Before I talk about my home birth VBAC, that was more than I could ever have wished for, I just want to preface that we did a lot of prep beforehand with our amazing midwife, Janine O'Brien, to think of all the options that were available to us and to know when a hospital transfer would be needed, when it would be important, and to be registered at the hospital, our local hospital that was about 15 minutes away, ready for us if anything ever happened. This is not a story of a free birth. We had 2 midwives present, and the whole process, we were ready for anything that could happen and discussed all our options. I will go through a Q&A about my birth story on a Touch Mamas podcast after I post this, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to hear about an incredible home birth VBAC that was perfect in every way that I could ever have imagined, then this is for you, because I do feel like we need to talk about this more. It's an incredible model of care and one I think more people need to know about and we need to protect. And my husband, that was present for the whole birth, can attest to that too. He's the one pushing me to make this video. So, every birth is unique and special, and genuinely, no matter how you choose to birth, you are a superwoman human to me. This was our journey. I chose to do a home birth with a private midwife after having experienced birth trauma thanks to how I was treated in a hospital for our first birth. The fact that we ended up having to do a emergency cesarean was not what caused my birth trauma. What caused my birth trauma, that I luckily was able to process through being a therapist myself and doing a lot of work in therapy, was because I was not heard or respected. And I went back and the hospital acknowledged and apologized to me for the birth and for what had happened. I have told my story on a Touch Mamas podcast, and I've also written it down in the blog. But I knew that we needed something different second time round. And I do think that a lot of what happened in that, my first birth, contributed to our difficult / almost impossible breastfeeding journey with my son that never could latch and ended up having to exclusively pump for 18 months. And I knew I needed to do everything in my power to try not to go there again. And for me, that was getting a private midwife and having a home birth as plan A. And luckily, plan A worked. All right. All that being said, we have to start at 32 weeks. Although I had her at 38 plus 4 weeks gestation, at 32, 33 weeks, I don't remember exactly, I had a bleed and I had to go to hospital to be monitored. Weirdly enough, I had the exact same thing happen with my son. So they checked me, no waters were broken, I had the bleed, but I was also experiencing some period-like contractions. So they kept me overnight for monitoring. Thing is I also had human metapneumovirus, so a pretty intense sickness that was congesting me and impacting my immunity. So they kept me overnight for observation. I still had my period-like contractions. I had them all the way up until the birth. But aside from that, and very likely my mucus plug coming out at 33 weeks, we're not going to say it's exactly the mucus plug, but it's very likely. No waters were breaking and my midwife was keeping track of everything and we were in touch with the hospital and I did have another ultrasound. I will talk about that more maybe on the podcast, but this is about the birth. But why it's important is because I was having period-like contractions pretty much daily and pretty strong ones from 32, 33 weeks. So that's a long time. So every time I would have stronger contractions, I would think, oh, we're on. And because it was so early, Janine and I discussed, and we decided that I had to rest. I stopped going for walks. I stopped picking up my son as much and just went, let's chill, let's relax. So then 38 plus 4 that day, I had stronger contractions that night. And again, I wasn't giving them too much attention because I had them before, but I just had a feeling this is a little bit different. So I was paying attention to them. That day I had an appointment with my acupuncturist and my chiropractor, which I was seeing weekly in the lead up to the birth from 36 weeks. So I saw the acupuncturist first, and she put, I believe it was sacrum. So she put them on. I'll check and I'll confirm for the Touch Mamas podcast ep. But yeah, she said, are you ready to meet your baby? And I said, yes. So she kind of did other things in my lower back that she didn't do before. And I had a strong contraction in that appointment. Then on the drive home, stronger contraction still, to the point that I was like, I'm not paying attention, and it was a bit dangerous to drive. Then I saw my chiropractor that evening, and I told him about my contractions. We laughed, saying I may meet my daughter that night, and I said, well, who knows? But again, I had another strong contraction there. Nothing like labor contractions, but they were like telling me something was different. And then I messaged my midwife at around like just before 8 o'clock, because I know that she goes to sleep early. And I messaged her saying, just by the way, I've been having stronger contractions, and I think a little bit more of my mucus plug has just come out. I think this was like 7:30 p.m. So just maybe be aware to be on call tonight. So later on, she told me that she left her clothes out. So then, because I knew that I may go into labor tonight, and also it's just very normal to nest when you are, imminently in labor, I started cleaning and tidying up the house, ready for the home birth. And I went to bed at like 11 p.m. and the contractions just continued and got stronger, to the point that at midnight, I had to get out of bed. I just thought, no, I can't stay in bed and sleep. I'm just going to see if they continue, but I'll like rest on the couch, so that way I'm not near my son and I don't wake him up. By 1 a.m., they were getting stronger, to the point that I knew that I needed Sven to support me. So in our first, we did a calm birth course this time, and in the prior birth, we did hypnobirthing, and both were amazing. So Sven's always been a beautiful support for me. So I called my mum so that she would be available for my son. And I woke Sven up after that. So my mum was over within like 15, 20 minutes. And my son stayed asleep. The contractions got closer and were taking my attention, to the point that Sven then texted Janine, told her that I'm, late in labor. And Janine asked him a few questions, if they were taking my attention, how far apart they were. They were about 3 minutes apart at that stage, and they were definitely taking my attention. So she came over, and while she was on her way, because she has a fair bit to drive to get to us, about 45 minutes an hour. I think it was 45 minutes without traffic, middle of the night. Sven started inflating the pool. Which luckily he practiced, which I highly recommend. He practiced doing it beforehand, just a couple of days before. So he inflated the pool, put the lights in, put the liner in, and left it like that. No water yet. And Janine arrived at 2:45. I'm going to check her notes. Hold on. I don't remember what time things were. So Janine arrived at 2:45. And at that point, my son was awake. So C was awake, and he was actually really good oxytocin for me. So I gave him cuddles, and I was able to just hold and be with him through the contractions. This time round, I had no pain in my lower back and I was able to rest in between contractions. With my son's labor, even from the get-go, so from the beginning, I had so much pain in my lower back in between contractions that I didn't realize I had a posterior labor. So this time I already knew this is different. And my waters hadn't broken yet, if you have noticed. So Janine arrived and she noticed that once she was checking me and she was timing my contractions and noticed that they started to slow down, and she started noticing that I really wanted to sleep. So I hadn't slept at that point and I was really tired. I was in early labor, obviously. So, and I was talking and I was present. And yes, so she told me to go back to sleep. She told us all to go back to sleep. Actually, no. It got to a point where I was saying that I wanted to sleep, but we didn't know how far I was because we hadn't done a vaginal exam yet. That Janine said, would you like one? So she said, you don't need to have one, but if you want one, I can do one so we can see, what's been happening, how far along you are. And I actually really wanted one. I wanted to know. So it was the most gentle vaginal exam I've ever had in my life. Barely felt it. And she was beautiful. She said, you're doing an amazing job, Mel. And then she asked me if I wanted to know how far along I was. And I said, yes. And she said that I am 2 centimeters, which freaked me out because I was 2 centimeters with my son when I arrived at the hospital with him. But that was after laboring a lot longer. So I was already like, oh no, I've got a long way to go. And she said, no, that doesn't mean that you've got a long way to go. It means you're doing a really good job and it means your body is doing the right thing. And it could be a long time and it could be a short time. So she said, just go back to bed. You need to rest. And she said, treat this sleep, because I was like, how in the world am I going to sleep? She said, treat this sleep like you would on an airplane, that you just keep getting woken up. I'm really grateful I don't have this pain when I'm on an airplane, because it is painful. So we all went back to bed. Luckily, our son also wanted to go back to bed. Well, he didn't want to, but he did. And we all went back to bed together. The boys fell asleep straight away. I did not sleep, but I was able to rest in between contractions. Didn't feel like it. And they got so intense that I just thought, no, I can't stay in bed. I have to get out. I'm also getting too loud at that point, in my opinion, that I'm going to wake up the boys. So I walked. Also, Janine told me that she may go home, which freaked me out. She always says I was never going home, but it freaked me out going, oh my God, what if she goes home? And I'm like contracting so much. So I was in the bed, not sure if she had left already or not. But I walked to the bedroom door and she was at the bedroom door waiting for me. And she was like, beautiful, Mel, let's go to the living room. Let's keep going. And so she walked me to the living room. Actually, I went to the bathroom first. I peed and then I came back and she put the TENS machine on. Oh my gosh. Did not work with the first labor. It was like agony with a back labor. But when she put it on, it was like, oh, it felt so good. I understood why people like it. So with the TENS on, I just kept going on the couch. At this point, I have, looking at her notes, that Janine was so beautiful and Sven was in awe of Janine, just being able to see me and know, or just feel in her gut what was up, like that I was in, that her gut instinct was saying, yeah, she's in transition. She never said those words because she can't be sure, because we have now it's 4:30 a.m. But she could see I'm on the couch, what stage leaning I was in over, just by looking at I didn't want to be on the floor. I didn't want to be on the birth ball. For me, it just felt good to be on the couch and leaning over. Just and incredible. Janine was like holding my hips the whole time with the tens. When I said that they were contractions more regular, more intense, and stronger, and I just couldn't do the shower anymore. She said to come. I was also vocalizing. That's beautiful. At this point. Do you want? So she woke Sven up to come and start filling up the pool. Actually, I believe she said me. And honestly, for me, aside from the tens being great, like, whatever, I don't know what time it is. Let's just do it. That I had was so I got into every time I held his arms. Every time I felt I was feeling it a lot in my butt at that point, which I also knew was a good sign. Have my forehead against him. That my brain is telling me otherwise. It was the best pain relief. Just we got into the pool, so and it was anytime I would feel a surge come on, I would just say, Sven, I need you. And he would come, he would drop what he was doing, and he would come. But that felt good for like it was a minute, amazing, 2 minutes. The tens, my body just immediately started pushing, and I was like, oh no. She said, okay, let's try. It was a good thing, but it was like, oh no. So the walk from the living room to the shower, I think it's good to talk about that. I think it does hurt, but it's an amazing. And it was like very difficult 10 meters to walk. Just contraction after contraction after contraction. That's what it felt like. But we got there. I was so scared to take the tens off because it felt so good. But honestly, it wasn't really working at that stage. So I got in the shower and holy begolias, they were just on top of each other. And like, obviously I was in transition, but because I was only 2 centimeters, it's like ridiculous, that mentality of the hospital. That's also why that was difficult, because the way they talked about it in the hospital, it was stayed in my mind. And it's like, no, I'm progressing. So we were, I was in the shower, and the entire time in the shower, the entire time in transition, my brain was saying, Georgie, that why in the world did I not choose the epidural? Why am I not in the hospital? I should have just done a cesarean. Very obvious signs of transition. A few weeks before, I was like, this is ridiculous. How am I going to do this for another like 7 hours? So I heard her, did not see her, and she said, hi Mel, it's Georgie, I'm here. And I also knew that that was a sign that we were getting close. Oh, of course, the sign should have been that my body's naturally pushing, but your brain is just different in those moments. So it's amazing to see in the notes how often oh, I know, but big girl. But it's your body doing what it needs to do. Like, your body's doing amazing work. And we got through it. So I leaned over the edge of the pool, and Sven's holding me, and I'm getting to like lean my head against his, and he's giving me water, and Janine made me a little electrolytes drink so that I could have some drinks, like sips in between as well. And I remember hearing the airplanes going over, which meant that it was after 6 a.m. I just remember thinking, oh, wow, it is almost sunrise. But I just still couldn't believe that it was so soon. Janine was checking my daughter's heart rate. I remember seeing her coming in and checking the heart rate. And I remember not liking it sometimes because she would try to do it in between contractions, but the contractions were so regular that I would go, no, and she would have to like pull back and she'd go back in. But she was doing them every 10, 15 minutes. So it's incredible to see how her heart rate was just beautiful and perfect the whole time and just so regular. It says here that at 6:48, that's when the head was on view with a surge, and it says not long now. And yeah, when you see the photos, you actually see my son waking up when, like, seriously, a minute or two before she was out. So he was up in my mum's arms at 7:08 a.m. and she was out at 7:09 a.m. Like, we could not have asked it to be better than that. Isn't that incredible? But let's go back to the pushing. The pushing, I thought that I was yelling the house down. Apparently I wasn't, but that's how it felt. And I was reading in my head a lot. Now, I'm just naturally someone like that. No matter how much calm birth breathing and practice and mindfulness I do in my life, I'm just someone who thinks a bit too much and likes to be in control. So I was really concerned that I was yelling the house down, that I was scaring my son, that he was awake. Apparently I wasn't. But it was amazing because I could hear Janine. She was never coaching me, but she heard my voice and she said, Mel, try to go deeper. So at some points I felt like I was pretty much almost yelling. So she told me to go deeper. So yes, it's hard to do, but I knew I had to listen and trust her. So I did that. With the following surges, I'd go ooh and go deeper in my voice and vibrations. And she got me to also change a position and go into a more squatting position in the water. Again, extremely painful, and I didn't want to change my position, but I wanted to trust her. Glad I did. And so I got into a squatting position as well and kept vocalizing low, kept just going with every surge. And every time I got to break, I would put my head on the edge of the pool and have a sip of water. And the pool did get a bit too hot for me. So they brought me ice water with towels and just were putting it on my face. And it was the best feeling in the world. And what I did not know, which I would like, it's kind of obvious, but like the ring of fire, when I felt it, it felt really good to have heard people say that before. I did have perineal massage beforehand. And so I knew the feeling and I thought, oh, this is the ring of fire. That means her head's there. And I remember as well to change my breathing to go to slower, shorter. So instead of really just pushing her through, luckily I didn't have that full sensation. I was pushing, but at the same time I was changing my breaths to so shorter. Which did help to go through it because then I'm focusing on the breath and that fit sensation, and it was really hard because I would feel the ring of fire and doing that and pushing it, and then I would feel her retract and go back in, and I would go no, because I was thinking, no, that means I have to do it again. So then I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it's pain, because it would come back on. I'd be like, oh no, not again. And so then I would do the same thing. And really, I was really focusing in my mind of that image of her stretching really slowly and just imagining her head in the ring of fire. And I was imagining it stretching with that breath. And I was really bringing in what I heard Janine say, what my pelvic floor physio said, and even what my sister said about the slow breaths. And what helped me as well, because I think Janine and Georgie kept hearing me go, no, because I think it happened like 4 or 5 times of that. I felt the ring of fire about 4 or 5 times before she was out. That I remember Georgie or Janine or both of them saying, Mel, that's actually a really good thing that you're feeling it and that she's going back in and coming back out. They said she is stretching you so gently and so beautifully to help you not tear. Like, that's what they were saying. And I was like, okay, just remember that. Like, it was a really good grounding for me. And Janine told me to sit, because they could see it with the mirror, but they couldn't actually see her. So they asked Mel, like, can you touch and feel if her head's there? And I was like, no, I can't. I just couldn't bring myself to feel it. I don't know. It was like, oh, I can't do that. But I could feel, like, I knew her head was there, because I could feel the ring of fire. But also I could feel the hair moving in the water. By the way, we think that the waters broke when, so my waters were intact the entire time until her head was crowning and coming out, and then they broke. I could feel the hair moving in the water in between my legs. So the last couple of surges, I could feel her head there, like just still that, the ring of fire. And before the last surge, I didn't know it was the last surge, obviously, but Janine said to me, I have the video of it. I'm not going to share that video, but I'll say it, that she said, Mel, with this last surge, or 1 or 2 more surges, because she didn't know either, the head's going to come out. And then with the second surge, her body will come out, and then you just have to lift her up. And again, I don't know why. I think I was just so focused on the surges and getting her out that I was like, I can't do that. I can't grab her. I think it was just like the concept of doing anything more than I was currently doing was just like, I couldn't do that. And Janine was beautiful. She said, that's okay. Sven, can you catch her? And so Sven was getting ready to catch her. In my mind, it felt like 10 minutes. You see in the video, it was 1 minute after she said that. My son's already out watching. I didn't know that. The son's out watching. And then with another surge too, her head was out and then her body, and it was so much faster when you see the video than it was in my mind. And it was just complete instinct. After she came out, I saw her and I just picked her up and put her on my chest immediately. There was no question about it. Absolute no question. It was just, that's my baby and she needs to be on me. It's just no question. So I lifted her up immediately and put her on my chest, and she wasn't crying. And I knew that that was okay because I had seen so many videos of home births. And I remember Janine saying that when there is a beautiful, calm birth, you often see a baby not crying straight away because it's so calm. And so I wasn't concerned about her not crying yet. And then Janine said, just breathe in her face, just blow in her face. And I did, and that's what triggered her to have her first cry. And then Janine just lightly wiped her face a little bit. And that was it. So after she was out and in my arms, we brought my son over to be held by his daddy to see his baby sister. And I sang a song that I have sung to all my nieces and nephews and to my son and now daughter when they're all born, about a little chick being born. I sang that song, made Janine and Georgie cry. And then they helped me out of the bath onto the couch that was already prepared with all like waterproof things and towels. I lay down on the couch and we waited for the placenta to come. I felt a lot of pressure in my lower back and a bit of pain. Again, I want to be very transparent with that word and that feeling because it was, but it was very tolerable. It was more uncomfortable, I would say, but they were beautifully in no rush to birth a placenta. So I was on the couch and I had little baby girl do her breast crawl down and latch, which was the most insane experience and bringing me tears to my eyes because my son was not put on my chest straight away. He was put on my chest for a couple of minutes and then taken away and then was not brought back for a breastfeed until after an hour and a half, 2 hours. So the fact that I had her on my chest immediately, not taken away whatsoever for 2 hours, it's priceless. Absolutely priceless. So no checks, no one else touching or holding my baby yet. She's on my chest. She does the breast crawl. She does her first breastfeed. And we wait for the placenta. And I have some contractions and I bear down for the contractions. Janine tugging a little bit, and then eventually we do a good push and the placenta came out on its own. Very minimal blood loss, no tearing. I had a bit of a graze on my perineum that was healed within a week, and yeah, very minimal bleeding, and it's just all an absolute dream. She was feeding at the breast and I was with my toddler and I had the placenta in a bowl next to me until the placenta cord turned white. So about an hour and a half or so, and then, or more, I don't know. So Janine and Georgie were packing up like incredible women, putting the pool down, emptying it, putting it down, packing it away, packing everything up, putting the towels in the bathroom, laundry. So we just had some quality time with my son. My husband ordered some coffees to be delivered and some breakfast wraps. We all just sat in our living room with this beautiful new addition to our family. My mom was there too the entire time, of course, watching everything, just absolutely in awe. She's never seen a birth like that before. And yeah, after the placenta cord turned white, my son and my husband both cut it. And then Georgie gave us a tour of the placenta and showed us all the aspects of it, which was incredible. I think everybody should see that. I think it should be in sex ed classes. And then the ladies helped me go to have a shower. They lifted me up and my husband got his first tummy time, skin to skin, with our daughter and our son together. And I had a shower with the lovely ladies. I was able to wee as well, which was really good, with minimal pain, which is incredible. The shower helped. And yeah, the ladies just treated me like a queen and put my pajamas back on and walked me back to the living room to be with the family. And I just wanted to lie on the couch with the family. And yeah, that was our absolutely incredible home birth VBAC. There are so many things that I did to prepare for this birth, and I'm not going to, say that they didn't help. Everything I did to help prepare for this birth helped me immensely. It would not have been the same without the prep that I did. I will write all of that separately or do another video about all the prep that I did. But as I mentioned, calm birth course, chiropractic, acupuncture, breathing, mindfulness, all those things were part of it. And there are other things too. Also the prep that we did for our son to prepare to see a home birth. But we did so much prep, and there's luck involved too. At the end of the day, I do truly believe that life happens the way it's going to happen. At the end of the day, it's going to unfold the way it has to unfold. And every journey teaches us so much about ourselves and other things too. So my journey with my son taught me about strength that I didn't know I had, more mentally than anything. And I needed that as a mum. It taught me patience. It taught me resilience, taught me perseverance. And this journey taught me a primal physical power and strength that I knew was in me, but I never felt. And now it's really empowered me to feel that more in my body. And I'm looking forward to the recovery journey and being able to connect physically to my body in that way. But I do believe that life ends up unfolding. Oh, hi, good morning. I do believe that life ends up unfolding the way it's meant to. So there is a lot of prep. There's all the things that we have in our control, like the model of care that we choose, or the model of care that we have at our disposal, the prep that we do, and luck. And then how we manage whatever happens afterwards. So I hope that this story can help someone know that home birth is an amazing, beautiful option. That they are the most incredible medical professionals that I've personally ever seen, midwives. And my father's a doctor, was a surgeon, and his father was a pediatrician. So I'm not saying it lightly, but I cannot believe I get to tell this birth story while breastfeeding. I never would have, actually, I would have dreamed of this. I would have dreamed of this, and I am living my dream. Don't take that lightly. So that's it for now, I think. If you have any comments or questions that you'd like answered in the Attached Mamas podcast, Sarah's going to ask me a whole bunch of questions. She already has a lot lined up, but I'm sure other people may have some questions too. So pop in the questions if you have any, and we will cover them in that next episode. Yeah, what are your thoughts on home birth now after hearing this?